out there? My name is Laolu Akonde, and you are on to Inside Sources. But first, here is my take for today, entitled Other Important Questions About El-Rufai. Now, there are those who say because the former governor Nasiru El-Rufai supported President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the 2023 presidential elections, what is happening to him now is not what he deserves. Some people are saying that. Others are arguing that the federal government is just looking for something to nail the former governor, Stormy Petrel of Kaduna politics, because he walked out of the ruling APC and then boasted very loudly that he will ensure the termination of the Tinubu presidency in 2027. Some people are saying that. There are even those who articulate quite brilliantly that federal government prosecution against El-Rufai because of what is said on TV about an alleged hacking of the phone of the National Security Advisor cannot be used against him in the court of law because what is said on TV was not said under caution. So there are several narratives out there, but the government is, however, not persuaded by any of those arguments, and they are pushing ahead with the prosecution on several levels. In fact, only this week, federal government officials who may have compromised airport security the day the Malam returned from Egypt, they are now being charged in what is a further extension of the legal battles against Malam El-Rufai. Now, this is my own concern. What the authorities in the federal government and even in Kaduna State are ignoring is what I am concerned about. And these are the issues of allegations of human rights violations and related abuses against Malam El-Rufai. Shouldn't someone ask why there shouldn't be a prosecution or at least a thorough investigation of those critical human rights violations allegations? Why hasn't any federal government agency or even Kaduna State government been bothered to review some of those violation allegations? Right there in Kaduna a few weeks ago, some survivors and families of victims of alleged violations of the former governor issued a statement demanding, and I quote, full accountability for abuses under Nasiru El-Rufai, and they said there ought to be an end to the impunity and silence regarding those allegations. But since then, a couple weeks now, we've had nothing from the Office of the National Security Advisor or anybody in the federal government or even Kaduna. For instance, shouldn't Madam Nuhu Ribadu be concerned about those allegations bordering on the violations of people's fundamental human rights? Isn't national security of a country the cumulative aggregate of personal protections of the citizens of those countries? Shouldn't somebody be concerned? I like to quote copiously from that statement that was signed by such important Nigerians like Professor Chidi Odinkalu and others. I quote, "We speak today as representatives of countless individuals, families, and communities who endured 8 years of profound hardship, terror, fear, and loss under the governorship of Nasiru El-Rufai in Kaduna State from 2015 to 2023. Our coalition, which they have formed, includes citizens from all walks of life, community and business leaders, serving and retired public servants, traditional rulers, faith leaders, academics, journalists, lawyers, and other professionals." Unquote. Then the statement detailed some troubling occurrences which, if true, is not only despicable but evil in raw forms. Let us quote that statement again. I quote, "Among the many victims are high-profile cases that symbolize the era's impunity. His Royal Highness Dr. Mayweather Raphael Galadima the Agwam Adara, who is the paramount ruler of the Adara chiefdom, was abducted in October 2018 and brutally murdered despite ransom payments. His killing, the statement continued, occurred amidst efforts to restructure traditional institutions, including the controversial conversion of the chiefdom into an emirate structure, deepening ethnic and communal tensions. Till date, the suspects arrested for the murder of Agwam Adara are yet to be successfully prosecuted, and their whereabouts cannot be ascertained. Unquote. Why shouldn't former Governor El-Rufai be questioned on those? What happened to the investigation of the murder of the traditional ruler that was quoted in this statement? Can we at least have a proper official conclusion on what happened or what did not happen on this particular grievous case? Now, here is more. Let us go back to the statement. They also listed, I quote, Abubakar Idris Dadiyata, a lecturer at the Federal University of Dusima and social media commentator critical of governance issues, was also abducted from his residence in Banawa, Kaduna on the 2nd of August 2019. He has remained missing, effectively disappeared since nearly 7 years. August 2026, that is August later this year, we mark the 7th anniversary of his abduction and triggered the statutory presumption of death under Nigerian law. The statement continues. Shortly after Dadiyata's abduction on December 23, 2019, at 10:16 hours, Bashir El-Rufai, son of the then governor, posted a tweet widely perceived as gloating over the incident and dismissing calls for his safe return. Unquote. Now, on this particular case, El-Rufai has worsened matters as he was quibbling on national television that we should hold former Governor Abdullahi Ganduje responsible on the Dadiyata matter. But Ganduje snapped back very quickly to say, no, not that fast. Ganduje said El-Rufai on this matter, and I quote him now, is reckless and simply attempting to shift responsibility. Now, the Odinkalu and Co. statement said more. Let's listen. I quote, during his tenure, Nasir El-Rufai presided over a pattern of indiscriminate actions, arbitrary abductions, persecution of critics, reprisal violence, unlawful demolition of homes, mass dismissals of workers without due process, forced sackings by employers of perceived opponents, and the displacement of citizens into exile. These acts bypass constitutional safeguards and Nigerian law, turning gubernatorial immunity into unchecked impunity. We are deeply troubled by recent attempts to reframe this history, portraying Nasir El-Rufai as a champion of due process and human rights, while survivors and families continue to seek truth and justice. Quotation ends. And here is what this coalition, which is led by, people like Professor Odinkalu, like I said, this is what they are demanding. I'm going to read it again from the statement. Accountability under the rule of law, thorough independent investigations, prosecutions where evidence warrants, and closure for traumatized victims and families by pursuing justice. We aim to prevent future suffering and uphold the dignity of all Nigerians, unquote. Now, that is just a decent demand. Inside Sources is of the view that these demands are so basic to the very notion of a democratic state. They are so basic to the very notion of a constitutional republic, and a country where the rule of law exists should support such a demand. And so over to you, the governor of Kaduna State, and over to you, the Attorney General of the Federation. This matter ought to be dealt with. El-Rufai should have his day in court to clear his name or face justice in these grievous allegations. And there you have it. Inside Sources, we go full blast after this.